from Hollywood, it's time now for Edmund O'Brien as...
Johnny Dollar.
Mr. Dollar, this is Mrs. Tackett. Did Mr. House talk to you about Abel?
Oh, yes, Mrs. Tackett, he did. He thought maybe you and I could get together this afternoon.
Yes, of course. Please hurry. I certainly have a right to know if my husband is dead.
Edmund O'Brien in another transcribed adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account.